According to Peters and Pierre 2004, multi-level governance has emerged as a new perspective about intergovernmental relations as a result of the rearrangement of political authority in Western European political and institutional structures. However, before we can comprehend what multi-level governance is, first we need to know what is the concept of governance. Governance is a set of regulations made by states and actors to help clear and are justified by problems in society that need help. The regulations mentioned are a set of policies, systems, programs, and decisions. They are used to help clear out and fix a problem that had been plaguing the public. Now that we know what governance is, we can now move on to the definition of multi-level governance itself. Multi-level governance, MLG, can be defined as a set of jurisdictions that are given to an entity that has some form of autonomy that in its framework, is made up of member states that are all working in cohesion to help achieve a common goal and for the greater good. These types of governance do not need to be instituted constitutionally, but it's an adaptive process that flows together with the help of other member states. Marx 1993 also defined it as continuous negotiations that are made by several states and are composed of several regional and national governments that are nested in one overarching political and institutional framework. In the perspective of neo-functionalism, MLG is related to the role of state actors as supervisors in determining integration and the dynamics that occur. Meanwhile, the perspective of liberal intergovernmentalism views MLG as a process that not only affects the dynamics in a country but also sees the political conditions of the country from 2 points of view, namely domestic conditions and external conditions or other countries that influence each other, multi-level players. The structure of MLG is seen at 3 levels, namely supranational, interstate, and transnational. In the context of the European region, this level relates to the European Union as supranational, EU member as interstate, and interaction between member countries in the form of institutions based on geographical proximity or special similarities with other countries as transnational. Therefore, MLG is based on partnership, but clearly goes a step further. MLG provides for a structural approach towards institutional relationships, leading to coordinated action in drawing up, implementing, monitoring and evaluating EU policies. In the first level, the EU in this case is a supranational institution that acts as the highest institution in policy making, where the EU is also a benchmark in making domestic policies of its member countries. At the same time, the EU performs a division of labor to each member state at every level, to adjust its policies with EU custom union policies. With this concept, the practice of MLG in the EU is seen as the centralization of policy making, which is likened to standardization that adapts to domestic conditions or shared competence. Second, at the interstate level, member countries have the freedom to interact with the governments of other countries. Third, at the transnational level, member countries can cooperate with other countries based on a sense of belonging, such as that which makes 2 or more countries have more relations than other countries, which will support regional integration. At the same time, member states are free to interact with non-state actors. As such, it makes for a broader range of policy making at multiple levels with unique policy features. The European Union conducts its multi-level governance just like a regular government does its governing. They have their own European Council that sets the EU's political and general direction by meeting the heads of each state in Brussels, Belgium. There are 2 legislative institutions in the EU called the Council of the European Union and the European Parliament, in which the member states can propose new laws and regulations to be initiated into the EU. Then the executive institution called the European Commission has the power to accept the new laws proposed by member states that have been proposed in the legislative institutions, and all member states then have to follow the laws that have been accepted by the EU. In the end, the EU, the member states and regional and local authorities work along according to the principles of subsidiarity and proportionality and in partnership, taking the form of operational and institutionalized cooperation in the drawing up and implementation of the European Union's policies. In conducting its relations with foreign parties, the MLG forms a more complex concept for the EU regarding its foreign relations, because when the EU establishes relations with foreign parties, it will have an impact on its members. On the other hand, for member countries that require countries outside the EU, it will be difficult because it can conflict with EU policies. In the case of Russia's energy distribution in Europe, in 2007 the EU imported 185 million tons of crude oil and 100.7 million tons of natural gas. However, the EU and Russia often have disagreements on oil and gas issues. The dispute between the EU and Russia over energy is vital because 1/5 of the EU's oil and gas needs are imported from Russia. In addition, Russia has several times had disputes with the EU which resulted in cutting Russian oil and gas exports to the EU. Because this cooperation was agreed on behalf of the EU, not individual member states, this dispute has a wide impact so that it can hamper the economy to the energy crisis in the EU. The impact that multi-level governance in the EU made on the member states' relation to other countries has been changed significantly. Before the European Union existed, states in its territory conducted interstate relations just as they would a normal country, without interference, and they can do agreements with any state they deem necessary. After the establishment of the EU, member states need to abide by regulations and the EU's political agenda to fit with their own, and they can't conduct diplomacy in the same way they did before joining the EU. The EU in itself then becomes some sort of government to the member states, and all member states must abide by the EU's rules or risk being kicked out and losing all the benefits of joining the EU. Hugo Marx, 2003, describes multi-level governance as a decisive feature of modern governance in that coordination takes place at discrete levels across vast reaches of scale. MLG allows the EU to expand, for example, institutional modes of coordination aimed at the provision of public goods other than serving self-interests, patterns of cooperation between the state and non-state actors, networks that take place within a relatively institutionalized framework of contingently expressed rules, norms, knowledge, and societal beliefs. For its external relations, MLG also helps the EU to become broader because governance does not take place only within states, it occurs whenever there are negotiating, discussion, and fierce power battles, as well as visions, concepts, and plans with laws established for a public purpose. Despite this, much of the governance argument is framed as a contest between national sovereignty and supranational authority.